Alright, sit down and turn off your autopilot. You're about to hear the most honest, slightly chaotic, possibly therapeutic breakdown of why Iveco's fitting matters. I am Achieved, your favorite slightly unhinged capsuleer, the man, the myth, the questionable decision maker in local. And today, we're just not whining about the game. No, we're dissecting it like some kind of rogue space doctor with a railgun in one hand and a suspiciously blinking capacitor in the other. Because you see, I know this stuff. I know this stuff in a way that someone who's flown backwards into a gate camp by accident and survived on purpose, knowing this stuff. And if you don't know that I know this stuff, it's because you haven't played long enough. You haven't lost enough ships, and you haven't stared into the void of the wallet and heard it whisper, Achieved tried to warn you. Now you need this more than I need to prove once again that solo PvPGuide Achieved isn't just a title. It's something that should be stamped upon the login screen, blinking in neon pink and purple, with a tooltip that say, you will never be him. But alas, it's not. The devs is not listening to me. Not on that thing. No, but the universe is listening. In that quiet, ominous way when you realize if you warp fast enough, if you believe hard enough, every bad fit and every bad fleet is just a stepping stone to being slightly less garbage tomorrow. Lasers on blaster ships and armor tanks on Caldari hulls and shield boosters on Tristans. This isn't just a slap some modules on and play game. We will break down why each piece matters. What to run, what to avoid, and how not to be that guy in fleets who get called out in killmail chat. Grab your drones and charge the cap. Let's fit your ships the right way. I am Achieved, and let's get you dangerous. If you would like to be so kind and like this video and subscribe if you haven't, you won't believe how long this video took to make. I honestly can't believe it myself. It has to be some kind of record. It took me 2 hours from writing to posting. Yeah, I am that casual. Give me the love. Now, whether you are here to grind anomalies, slap pirates, or delete someone in nullsec because they looked at you wrong, fitting in Ivecos is not just about max DPS. It is about balance, damage, survivability, capacitor, stability, mobility, and knowing your role. Every ship have different flavor, but the process of fitting can be broken into clear categories, whether you are PvPing or PvE grinding. Now you can always have way different fittings that also works, and that is the charm of this game. But in order to make up your own, you need to understand the logic and the idea behind them all. This guide is split into 2 parts. It's split into modules and how they work. And we will talk mostly about PvE fits. In this video, we will focus on stability, farming efficiency, and survivability. The goal will be stability, cap efficiency, consistent DPS, and safety. So basically, long anomaly sessions or mission runs without dock breaks. We will talk about slot by slot fitting, the common modules and variants to swap based on playstyle. There will be talking points to explain why each module makes sense. So it's a pretty hefty video. So let's start with modules or fitting. I don't even know where to start. So let's talk about fitting your ships. Now high slot, the weapons, is the easiest thing in the game. You will equip your ship with launcher drones or turret types depending on the ship bonuses, blaster, railguns, beams, autocannons, etc. Always fit the weapons that matches your ship bonuses. Do not slap on lasers on a blaster boat unless you're role-playing as confused. If a ship do not have any bonuses, then you won't lose any edge, and you can use whatever. For example, in the Mauler, you can use any weapon you like in the high slot. I also want to say drones and fighters would go into weapons, but they are actually mid slots, but it's generally the same thing. Different drones for different situations. Some is faster, some does more damage, and everyone does different damages. Let's go instead to mid slots. This is a long one. This is the utility area. The Nosferatus, the webbers, the scanners, the transfers, the painters, scramblers and so on. For any PvE ship bigger than a cruiser, a painter is quite usable. But most important is webifiers. 1 or 2, depending on the weapons you use and the enemy that you fight. A Nosferatu is good if you feel you have less than good enough capacitor. You also have stuff like capacitor batteries. This means longer repair or boost life. It also helps against enemies that drain your capacitor. So let's go through all the stuff that you have at your disposal. Now we got webifiers. This slows enemies down and therefore makes them easier to be hit by your weapons. And we got painters. This makes rats bigger, and bigger means it's easier for you to hit them. Now also using 1 painter and 2 webifiers, for example, that's a very nice combination to effectively make you hit even the smallest targets. And when you hit, you also hit hard. We also got the scramblers. This attempts you to stop the enemies from warping away from the fight. For every scramble point or strength that you have, the more warp jammer strength or points do the enemies need to be prevented from warping. The scramblers also have a secondary effect, and this is that it turns off the micro warp drive on enemies. But also the scramblers have a lot shorter range than the warp disruptors. The warp disruptors prevent enemies from warping. It has longer distance than scramblers, but they don't have the effect of the micro warp drives that the scrambler do. Here we also have the warp disruption field generators, the ones that we use to bubble the gates. They don't have a warp strength, but they prevent any players from within the bubble to actually warp off. And they do not turn off micro warp drives. But they do actually stop your friends from warping too, if they're within the sphere. We got the Nosferatus. This module lets you steal capacitor from the enemies. You can only steal capacity from the enemy if they have more capacity than you have. So for example, if you fly an active tank ship and fights a passive speedy ship, this works great, because you are using cap all the time, while he is not. Now if it is the opposite way and you have more cap than the enemies, then you will not steal any cap. This is very important. There are also ships in the game like the Cruor or the Balgorn that do not have these limitations. But this is bonuses, and we will go through bonuses later in the video. We also have scanners, the wide range resonance simulators, the blue one. This is for finding cosmic anomalies. We also have the narrow resonance scanner, the red one, and this is to find players. They both work the same. They are based on scan radius, and the lower scan radius you have, the smaller ships or anomalies can you find. We also have the guidance disruptors. This makes enemies' missile hurt less and fly shorter. This is great if you are a bigger ship and you are further away. We have the neutralizers, which is unlike Nosferatus. Now this big boys removes caps from both you and your enemies. Slightly more from the enemies. This is great if you have an excess of capacity that you do not need. This way you can cripple the enemy's own setup and you can win the fight. Stasis grappler. This is a webifier but for capitals. I'm not sure why I even include this, but instead of slowing down a set of percent, it slows down the longer it's applied to the enemy. The further away, also the less effective it becomes. Now we also have a bunch of tactical modules and link modules and field maintenance modules and command bursts. But this is a bit more advanced and can only be used on special ships. So read about what each of them do, because they can definitely help you if they work with your fitting. You have the salvagers. This is used to salvage loot from the battlefield. And the same here, we got the Entosis link. This you need to steal stations, but I will not go into like the bigger stuff of this in this video, because if you want that information, then 90% of this video is not for you. And also we have the data analyzers and the relic analyzers. This is the hacking devices you need to do exploring. They use success rate and analyzing strength to work. Look for ships with bonuses to really be able to use these devices fully. Okay, now when we know a little bit more about that, let's go to the low slots. Here we have shield boosters. This is the way to repair your shield by the cost of capacitor. It has fast repair and high capacitor usage. It is great for high fast incoming damage, and it's bad for ships with bad capacitor. We got shield extenders. This is a bonus shield that you activate. This holds a certain amount of extra shield until it's depleted or if the timer runs out. It's great for huge alpha damages. It's also moderate for capacitors and bad for sustained or prolonged fights. Here is also the infamous shield hardeners. This is pure resistance for shields. The more resist, the less damage you take. Remember that most modules are diminishing return, and using more than one will give less effect on some. It's something like 100% for the first one, 75% for the second, 50% for the third, and so on. But be aware of that. Also, resistance work a bit weird. The higher resist you have, the more effect does the percent give in resistance. So to simplify it, if you have 0 resistance and then get 50% resistance, you now take 50% less damage. It's pretty simple, right? But if you have 90% resistance and you get 91% resistance, its effect is more like 10% instead of 1%. It's hard to explain, but remember that when you work with resistances, those few resistances at the top can be very, very valuable. Now we got the armor repairers. This is the armor version of shield boosters. It has slower repair and it takes less capacity than the shield boosters. Armor plates is the same as the shield extenders. It's less armor bonuses than the shield and less cap usage than the shield. Armor hardeners is the same as the shield hardeners, but it is resistance for your armor. The damage control, this is the device that gives a flat resistance but also can be activated for 100% resistance bonus for a very short time. It's like a paladin bubble in Warcraft if you played that. It's very useful to get away, or if activated perfectly, you can neglect the damage that the enemies do in several situations. We have the capacitor batteries. With this you can boost your capacitor for some time with extra capacity. It's great for prolonging fights or even prevent being drained by enemy ships. The afterburner, this is what makes you fly faster with no real issues more than your own tracking being affected. It's very useful in most situations, like being able to catch someone or maybe even escape. We got the micro warp drive. This is a faster module than the afterburner, but this really fucks up your own tracking. It's a great way to escape or catching up, but can be affected by scramblers, and then you don't move fast at all. One thing that some people do, and even me at times, is to actually have a micro warp drive and an afterburner for different occasions on the same ship. But that is more I would call it like special fits. It's not very normal. We got thruster upgrades. This is actually 2 modules. Inertia stabilizers. This is making the ship more agile. It means that you warp quicker and even turn in high speed faster. Or narrower, I would say. We got the warp core stabilizers. This is used if you get caught by the enemies and just wanna bail. It's useful on any ship that has no defenses or capabilities of PvP, so mining ships or haulers. And using this on PvP ships instead of module fits for fighting, it's extremely dumb. Basically what you're doing is making sure that you do lose, while also making sure that your last mail look like your personality. Unsure. Weapon upgrades. All the weapon type bonuses are on low slots as well. This boosts your damage, and that is pretty much all I can say. And we also have the cloaking devices. Be invisible to others with this module. Do not get closer than 5,000 meters to anything when this is activated, because it will turn it off. And remember that it needs fuel. Now about rigs. This is an area where people usually take what kinda looks nice. This actually is what you should think about as you come up with your fitting idea. The rigs are extremely powerful, and I'm not just talking if you integrate your ship, which of course is very powerful too, but generally rigging can make the build work even if it seems impossible. I will not go through all the rigs, but I want to tell you what it can do. Now we all know that it can give your ship a flat bonus resist, or guns have bigger damage or shoot faster, but you can rig almost anything. You can rig so that you can oversize the ship modules. This is by using power grid routers. Then you can have battleship modules on a smaller size ship. You definitely need to rig your scan resolution for scanning and hacking. You can also rig so that your ship is too small to be scanned down by most people. Now rigging is important, and today the tier 3 rigs are quite cheap, but also do not waste ISK by over rigging your ship. Always spend the amount needed on a ship for the occasion, and not more. Save some ISK and fly once again instead. Now the rig works just as other modules. It has diminishing return. More of the same module will not give the full bonus. So now when we have this base knowledge, let's fit a ship. Now let's talk about PvE fit, sustainable for ISK grinding. So for example, high slot, choose a weapon based on the ship bonuses as we talked about. The mid slot, if you fly a bigger ship than a frigate, then use at least one webifier. If it's a ship bigger than a battlecruiser, then I would aim to use 2. In some cases, one webifier and one painter works. Now if you have more mid slots than 3, then I would fit in this order: webifier, painter, and Nosferatu, unless your ship is cap stable. And that is all you need for PvE in the mid slot. Now the low slots, you need a shield booster or an armor repairer. Do not use both. Look at the ship bonuses of your ship, and something that I do look at is if it has more shield than armor, then it's a shield ship. Or if it has a bonus to shield resistance, then it is a shield ship. And there is always variance, I know, but you do best in learning how to think correctly before throwing on anything people tell you. The next thing is of course resistance. Make sure that your resistance is decent depending on the task. Speed is good for anything smaller than a battlecruiser in most cases. And damage modules, in any PvE situation, I would fit this order: armor or shield booster, 2 corresponding shield resistances, the red ones, an afterburner. Now if you have more slots than that, then obviously you fly a bigger ship. This means more damage towards you. In this case, I would add in this order: 1 yellow corresponding resistance and 1 damage mod. If you have even more low slots, then it should look like this: armor or shield booster, 2 corresponding resistances, remove the afterburner, you are too big for the speed anyway, so instead have a yellow corresponding resistance, and then up to 3 damage mods. Now you have a very solid PvE ship that handles anything that your tech level is. But we have not looked at the rigs yet. If you would test your ship out and feel that something is off, like for example your repairer do not do enough work, or your capacity is depleting, or whatever it is, then this is where we fix that. If the repairers do not do enough work, then of course you can always have a second one, but that's not always capacity friendly. What we can do is that we can rig armor boost. Using a nanobot accelerator improves the armor boost cycle. This means that you boost faster, but it also takes more capacity. If you are short on that, then perhaps a nanopump rig is a better option. This will give you 30% more boost for no extra cap use. Now going back to armor do not work can also be that you have too low resistances. So test to try and remove 1 damage mod and add another red resistance. Now if you feel that you kill too slow or it still doesn't work, then why not rig the bad resistances that you have, or better up, rig 2 of the resistances that the rats that you're fighting is doing in damage. There is many ways to fix any issue that you encounter, but let's continue with the ship here. I would rig like this: 2 damage speed rigs and 1 nanopump. And I would remove 1 damage module for another red resistance. And for the engineering rigs, I would use most likely a capacitor control unit. But this is only if I'm not cap stable. If the ship is cap stable, then I would leave the engineering rigs empty. Unless I want to lock onto the target faster, then I would use perhaps one system targeted subcontroller. Or if we're still talking about small ships and I'm still cap stable, then I would probably rig 1 or 2 auxiliary thrusters for some extra speed and speed the tank better. The reason I would keep some slots unfitted is only if they are totally unnecessary and I then can save some misc. Now, okay, generally we have an idea on how to fit for PvE, but what if you fly frigates, for example? Sure, this works, but the game is not made for farming ISK in a frigate, even if it is doable. But how to think when fitting small ships overall for any type of PvE? So well, small ships usually benefits from speed, not all of them, but most of them do. Frigates have less slot layout, so it's actually more important to fit smaller ships correctly than the larger ones. If you're flying a frigate, you will need on the high slot weapons for the ship bonuses, or the DPS is needed to, I would say, clear speed if this is what you're flying. Now if you're thinking about fitting a tackler frigate, then the only reason for a gun is actually to eliminate drones, or if you get unwanted visitors that you need to get rid of. The target that you tackle will your fleet handle when it arrives. You just need to stay alive until they do. But then of course you also focus on a scrambler and web, and of course maybe even a bubble. But for PvE or dormant or speed runs, you will need weapons for the ship bonuses. As we talked about, it's important to think about what gun range you need. If you have close weapons that makes the most damage, then you need to be aware of being webbed. If you want to avoid the webbers, then at least 15k orbit is necessary for most ships. This is important in PvP, less important in PvE. But range is important. This makes missile frigates, for example, and drone frigates one of the best ones to fly. But then, of course, you need to be aware of the really speedy brawler frigs. I would say use a webber for those occasions. It's a really good idea, but this is also PvP. In the mid slots, I would say a webifier is a good choice. Now in PvE it's not as important for frigates. Another thing is a Nosferatu, so you can keep the cap up on the ship so you can tank longer or even more enemies. An afterburner is also a must for a frigate, unless you even go micro warp drive. The micro warp drive kinda messes up the tracking, so even here drones and missiles are a great mix. For the low slot, I would say one small shield booster or armor repairer is enough, one red resistance, and if you can, fit an afterburner. The other slot can be fitted with more resist or more damage depending on what you feel you want to improve. The rigs, I would say go 2 auxiliary thrusters for extra speed tank and 1 capacitor control circuit to keep that cap up in between boosts. Then of course here again, go DPS or tank depending on the stuff that you think is gonna help you the best. Now building a PvE ship with this in mind is quite easy and should be somewhat simple for anyone to do. After all, this is what is the most fun in the game if you ask me, to make my own builds. Now if you look at my ship here, this is a PvP ship. For example, my guns only shoot about 10 kilometers, which means I am in the range of webbers, and this is actually something I expect in a fight. So I deal with that with my tracking disruptors, I got 2 of them, and I also have the afterburner, which is really speedy onto Sancho ships, but I also have my nanocore, which actually helps boost my speed even more. So 2 webbers on my ship doesn't really matter. If it's 3 webbers, then you know, yeah, that's bad, but that's the game. You never know. So to think about, what's the meaning with a ship that you fit? If it's long range, then speed is less necessary, because the further from the target you are, the easier it is to be hit by enemies. But the gun range is important, and you might have to rig those to get beyond web range. This works for PvE. But always remember that for PvP, everything is a gamble. You never know what you face, and there are ships with a longer web range, and this is all true for everything in the game. You are never 100% safe, and there is not a 100% safe ship. But okay, now you have a fitted ship. How about skills? If you click on the ship of choice, you will see what skills that benefit that specific ship. But there's also skills for the ship type itself. You have the frigate defense skills, the frigate engineering skills, and so on. So make sure to get all those associated skills to normal skills level 4 and advanced skills level 4. This gives an edge and will make the ships a lot stronger than someone who forgot 1 or 2 skills. So take time and look through the skills and put them into queue. When you can, try to get the frigate command to 5, the advanced frigate command to 5, and of course the expert frigate to at least 4. Now this is not all though. You have nano cores. If you don't have one yet, then get a green or a blue one. Then make sure to do your Concord pass every week to get the box where you can choose the nano core for your ship. This is very straightforward but also extremely beneficial. Yes, some nanocores can be overpowered with the ability to warp way easier or gaining an extra slot, but honestly that makes no difference if they can't fit a ship correctly. But now you can. And one last thing I want to talk about is the importance of knowing your own ship. The more you fly the ship, the better you know it. And the more you know about other ships, then you up the chances of survival tremendously. As I mentioned before, some ships have bonuses, and if you learn what that is, then that also improves your flying. Same with nanocores. If you know the nanocores and you can spot what nanocores the enemies have, then you become deadly. But of course, ship bonuses. Here is something that you can start keeping in your mind. Now the Serpentis is harder to web due to webbing resistances. They also web you harder and longer, or further. So 15 kilometers is not long enough when facing these ships. Try to take out from distance or use at least 2 webbers. The Sunshine Nation have better tracking and bonuses to afterburner speeds. They fly a lot faster than other ships without the use of micro warp drive. Counter this with dual webbers and even triple webbers in some cases. The Goristas are tanky shield ships that have good bonuses to drones and do not need to be in range to fight. So counter this with close range and high damage, preferably EM or thermal damage, so lasers are very good. The Angel Cartel ships are very fast in their warp and will land before you on a gate, even if they warp after you. They also have great bonuses to range and optimal, so this ship always hits. The ways to beat this one is to be faster and honestly try to alpha hit them to their doom. The Blood Raiders are the Twilight series ships. Their Nosferatus do not care if you have bad capacitor, they will drain you completely. So here is batteries a great way to counter. The Mordu Legions are also fast ships, but they have the ability to fire missiles as fast as your laser hits. They also have a built-in 1 warp scrambler jammer strength. This means that you need more than 1 normal scrambler to catch them from warping. Eliminate these ships from afar, cause that's where they are. The SOE ships are mostly cloaked and only fight when they want to, so they are cowards. But also they have good drone bonuses, so also expect to tank this fight, especially when they have bombard implants. This makes the ships very dangerous. Counter them with a group of friends. I'm kidding. Have a good tank, even buffer tank are good here, and then just nuke them. The Amar ships usually are range specific and deadly towards shield ships. Try to stay close or very far away. Also using newts is very effective against Amar, same with tracking disruption. The Caldari is long range or close range or missiles that takes all the ranges. They are shield ships, so missile guidance is very effective as well as lasers. The Galente uses hybrid weapons. They are long range or very close range, and some even use drones. So also here, make sure you know the ship. Missiles are good and drones overall is good to take them down. Minmatar is the speedy race that go in and give it all. They hit at big ranges and are best fought with hybrids or if you also fly a speedy ship. Another good thing to do is to build a tanky ship and await them to try to leave after they attacked. That way you can hit them when they move away. I think this is enough for this video, and let me know if this helped you in the comments, and perhaps I could do a pure PvP fitting video with a bunch of ships and explain why, or perhaps how exactly the weapons works. Oh man, that sounds boring. But you guys let me know, and I see you guys again.